Today's story is one of the most disturbing and unforgettable crime cases in Lebanon. A story about two brothers, two men who looked ordinary but carried a darkness no one could imagine. This is the full case of George and Michel Netalian, the men who became known as the taxi driver killers. Their crimes shook the country, confused investigators, and left the public terrified of driving alone at night. But behind these murders, there was a pattern, a motive, and a secret that only came out in court. Tonight, we tell the whole story. Part 1. The first crime, Malake Tufik. Before the famous taxi driver killing started, there was another crime, a crime many people don't know about. The brothers' story begins with a woman named Malake Tufik. George knew her personally. He knew her home, he knew the way in, and he convinced his brother Michel that they could rob her and escape easily. In the beginning, the plan was simple: money and gold. But something went wrong inside that house. Malake ended up dead. Later, Michel told the court something terrifying, that after this first murder, George changed. His eyes looked different, like he felt something powerful that night. Michel remembered one sentence George said: "Killing is easy, and no one will ever know." This was the beginning of everything that would follow. After Malake's death, the brothers made a new plan, a darker one. They didn't want to just rob houses anymore. George suggested something else, a type of victim that was perfect for them: taxi drivers. In court, the judge asked Michel, "Why taxi drivers? Why them specifically?" Michel explained it clearly. Taxi drivers work until late at night. They drive through empty and isolated roads. They are usually alone. If something happens to them, there are no witnesses. And most importantly, nobody immediately notices when they disappear. For the brothers, taxi drivers became easy targets, predictable, vulnerable, and convenient. There was something that confused the Lebanese public. All the taxi drivers were killed the same way. The investigators noticed a perfect pattern. A single shot behind the right ear, from the same angle, from the same type of weapon. This consistency, this repeated technique, is what finally helped investigators link the murders together. Michel later described their method step by step. He always sat in the back seat. George sat in the front. They asked the driver to stop in a quiet or dark area. Michel leaned forward and shot the driver behind the ear with the same gun every time. The driver would die instantly. No noise, no struggle. After that, George moved into the driver's seat, and they took the taxi to use it, hide it, or burn it. Cold, planned, repeated. With every new body discovered, fear grew across the country. Taxi drivers refused to work at night. Families were afraid to take cabs. The streets became empty after midnight. People whispered, "There is a serial killer in Lebanon." But nobody knew who they were. Nobody knew it was two killers, two brothers, working together with the same routine. But police had almost no leads, no witnesses, no cameras, no fingerprints. The killers were ghosts. Until one mistake changed everything. One of the victims was a young Lebanese soldier named Ziad Deeb. He worked part-time as a taxi driver to make extra money. The brothers killed him using the same method as the others. After taking his life, they stole his phone. This one phone, this small object, became the first real breakthrough in the entire case, because the brothers later sold that phone to a boy, the son of a woman named Maurice. She didn't know anything about the crime, but when the police traced the phone and asked her to testify, she told them the truth. Yes, her son bought a second-hand phone. Yes, it belonged to the murdered soldier Ziad, and this connection led investigators straight to the Netalian brothers.
The police surrounded their home. The brothers were arrested and brought in for questioning. At first, George tried to distance himself. He tried to appear calm, innocent, and shocked. Michel, on the other hand, stayed quiet at first, but he was clearly nervous, shaking, sweating. When investigators confronted them with the phone evidence, something unexpected happened. George suddenly turned against his own brother. He tried to blame everything on Michel. It was him. He did it all. I'm innocent. But this was a huge mistake, because when Michel saw his brother lying and throwing him under the bus, he lost control. And for the first time, Michel spoke. In court, Michel exploded with anger. He shouted at George in front of everyone, and then he confessed. Everything. He told the judge how the first murder happened, how George changed after killing Malake, how the thrill of killing began, how they chose taxi drivers and why, how they repeated the same killing method every single time, how George drove the cars, how they burned some taxis and hid others, how they stole Ziad's phone and sold it. Michel even revealed the detail that shocked the courtroom. George knew Maleke Toothik personally and used that connection to enter her home. This detail destroyed George's last chance to claim innocence. Witnesses were called. Forensic experts testified. Phone records matched. Ballistic tests proved the gun was the same in every murder. Piece by piece, the puzzle was complete. When Michel finished his confession, the courtroom was silent. George, now exposed, began shouting at the judge, at Michel, at the investigators. He tried to deny it all, tried to change the story, tried anything to save himself, but it was too late. The testimony of Morris about her son buying Ziad's phone was the final nail in the coffin. The truth could no longer be hidden. In the end, the evidence was overwhelming. The confessions, the weapon, the phone, the pattern of the murders, the repeated method, the connection to Maleke Toothik, the testimonies, the matching bullets, the timeline, it all pointed to one conclusion. George and Michel Netalian were the killers of the taxi drivers, two brothers who turned the roads of Lebanon into hunting grounds, two ordinary men who became predators, silent, calculated, and, for a time, completely invisible. The case was finally closed, but the scars it left on the country never truly healed. The Netalian brothers were caught because of one mistake, a single phone they sold. But here's the question no one has ever answered. If they hadn't sold that phone, would the police have ever discovered who the killers really were?